long before Budapest became the shining heart of Hungary. The land where it now stands was a crossroads of rivers, forests, and ancient peoples. At the center of this story flows the mighty Danube, a river that carved its way through hills and plains, bringing both bounty and danger. For centuries, it was a border, a trade route, and a lifeline. Along its banks, tribes settled, each leaving behind traces of their existence. The Celts were among the first to shape the land. They built fortified villages on the hills, hunted in the forests, and used the river as their highway. Their lives were closely tied to nature, and their gods were carved into the stones of caves and sacred groves. Then came the Romans, bringing order, discipline, and ambition. Around the 1st century AD, they established a military outpost they named Aquincum, located on the western side of the river, where today's Óbuda district lies. It was more than a fortress. It grew into a bustling city with bathhouses, amphitheaters, paved roads, and even underfloor heating. Merchants, soldiers, and settlers arrived, blending local customs with Roman civilization. Aquincum became a center of power and culture in the province of Pannonia, guarding the empire's frontier. But as empires rise, they also fall. The Romans eventually withdrew, leaving behind ruins that whispered of their once great presence. Over time, new waves of people arrived: Huns, Avars, Slavs, each reshaping the land in their own image. They built temporary settlements, fought for dominance, and passed on legends. The Danube remained constant, carrying the echoes of each passing age. The stage was set. This land was destined to become something greater, though no one yet knew the two settlements, Buda on the western hills and Pest on the eastern plains, would one day join as one. As centuries passed, the land by the Danube continued to attract settlers, drawn by its fertile soil and strategic position. By the Middle Ages, two distinct communities began to rise on opposite sides of the river. To the west, nestled against the hills, stood Buda, a settlement known for its strong fortifications and royal connections. To the east, spreading across the flatlands, grew Pest, a lively trading town filled with merchants, craftsmen, and travelers. Though separated by the river, their fates were tied together by commerce and conflict. Buda became the seat of kings. Its castle, towering on the hill, symbolized strength and authority. The court brought scholars, architects, and artisans, turning the city into a hub of political and cultural life. From its windows, rulers could gaze across the Danube, watching the busy markets of Pest thrive. Meanwhile, Pest embraced its role as a place of exchange. Caravans from the east and merchants from the west met in its streets, filling the air with voices of many languages. Its markets bustled with good spices, fabrics, tools, and stories from distant lands. But prosperity did not come without peril. Invaders, raiders, and armies often marched through, leaving scars on both settlements. Yet, each time destruction came, the people rebuilt. This resilience became part of the spirit of the Danube towns. They learned to endure, to adapt, and to cherish the river that united them, even as it divided their lands. By the 13th century, Buda and Pest had become jewels on the Danube, different in character, but connected in destiny. Still, they were not yet one city. Their stories continued to unfold separately, like two voices in a song that had not yet merged into harmony. The prosperity of Buda and Pest would not last undisturbed. In the 16th century, a storm gathered from the south the armies of the Ottoman Empire. After the fateful Battle of Mohacs in 1526, Hungary was torn apart, and the Danube towns found themselves caught in the struggle between east and west. By 1541, Buda fell into Ottoman hands, and the once proud royal city became the seat of an Ottoman province. Life changed dramatically. Minarets rose beside churches, and the call to prayer echoed across the river. Bathhouses were built, fed by the region's abundant thermal springs, many of which still exist today. Markets thrived under Ottoman rule, bringing goods from distant corners of the empire, silks, spices, and exotic fruits. Yet behind this surface of cultural blending, hardship weighed heavily on the people. Wars, heavy taxation, and forced labor pressed down upon the inhabitants of both Buda and Pest. For a century and a half, the cities lived under the crescent banner. Buda, once a jewel of kings, became a frontier stronghold of the Ottoman Empire, while Pest languished, often suffering raids and destruction. The river that had once carried prosperity now bore witness to sieges and battles. By the late 17th century, a new chapter began. The Habsburgs, allied with European powers, launched campaigns to drive out the Ottomans. In 1686, after a brutal siege, Buda was recaptured. The liberation brought both joy and devastation. The city lay in ruins, scarred by fire and war. Still, the people endured, ready once again to rebuild from the ashes. The Ottoman era left a lasting mark on the land. Its baths, its stories, and even its wounds became part of the soul of the twin cities. The stage was set for renewal, but challenges still lay ahead. With the Ottomans gone, the land by the Danube entered a new age under the rule of the Habsburgs. From the late 17th century onward, Buda and Pest became part of the Austrian sphere, and life slowly began to change. The Habsburgs rebuilt the devastated towns, restoring order and encouraging trade. Soldiers marched through cobbled streets, new churches rose from rubble, and the influence of Vienna could be felt in architecture, governance, and culture. Buda remained the seat of power, housing officials and nobles loyal to the crown. Its castle, though scarred, regained its dignity as a symbol of authority. Pest, meanwhile, began to stir with energy. Merchants returned, guilds revived, and the plains offered space for growth. By the 18th century, Pest was blossoming into a center of commerce, attracting traders and craftsmen who filled its neighborhoods with activity. But tensions simmered beneath the surface. The Hungarian people longed for independence, their spirit unbroken by centuries of foreign rule. Rebellions flared from time to time, though often suppressed with iron force. Still, seeds of national pride were sown, nurtured by poets, scholars, and dreamers who envisioned a free Hungary. The 19th century brought winds of transformation. Pest, in particular, surged ahead with rapid development. Coffee houses buzzed with ideas, newspapers spread political thought, and bridges of understanding began to form literally and figuratively between the two cities. In 1849, during the Hungarian Revolution, the people briefly tasted self-rule, though it was crushed by imperial armies. Yet the fire of change had been lit. By mid-century, the Danube towns stood at a crossroads. Buda held tradition and authority, Pest carried energy and progress, and Óbuda quietly kept its ancient roots. The time was drawing near when these separate voices would finally join to sing as one city. By the mid-19th century, change could no longer be held back. Pest was expanding rapidly, its wide boulevards and bustling markets outshining the quieter, more aristocratic Buda. The river that had once divided them now begged for a bridge to unite them. In 1849, the Chain Bridge was completed, a marvel of engineering that became the first permanent crossing between Buda and Pest. It stood not only as a physical link, but also as a symbol of unity, hinting at the destiny awaiting both towns. The Austro-Hungarian Compromise of 1867 gave Hungary greater autonomy within the empire, and the cities by the Danube seized this moment of renewal. A vision emerged to create a single modern capital worthy of the nation's ambitions. In 1873, that vision came true. Buda, Pest, and Óbuda were officially merged into one city, Budapest. The new capital thrived with astonishing speed. Grand boulevards were laid out, inspired by Paris. The Parliament building rose proudly along the riverbank, its Gothic spires mirrored in the Danube's waters. Opera houses, theaters, and cafes became homes for art and conversation, while trams rattled down the streets, carrying the pulse of modern life. The city was nicknamed the Pearl of the Danube, dazzling visitors with its beauty and energy. Yet Budapest's story was not without trials. Wars, occupations, and revolutions in the 20th century tested its strength. Bridges were destroyed, buildings scarred, and people suffered. Still, each time, the city rebuilt, its spirit unbroken. Today, Budapest stands as a testament to resilience, a city shaped by Celts, Romans, Ottomans, Habsburgs, and Hungarians alike. Its twin souls of Buda and Pest remain distinct, yet together they form one heart, beating proudly on the banks of the Danube.